Differentiation. What is happening in today's building materials industry? We're seeing a lot of brands communicating the same things and doing the same things, and it's creating big challenges for customers to decide what products and services they want to choose. So we need to do something. We need to make a change, and we need to start rising up out of the sea of sameness out there and say something different. Today, I want to dig into a really common challenge that we see in the building materials industry and a common thing that we come up against when we're working with brands, which is differentiation, or rather lack thereof. One walk of a trade show floor or review of building material marketing pieces, and you're going to see a lot of the same terminology. Right now, unfortunately, a lot of brands are swimming in this sea of sameness, as we like to call it, where they're struggling to stand out, they're struggling to stand apart. As I mentioned, walking that trade show floor, you're going to see things like energy efficiency, protection, durability, these words that have become so commonplace that it's hard for brands to really stand out who are trying to communicate these features. Which is unfortunate because a lot of brands may be very durable or provide the best protection, but they're getting lost amongst their competitors in this space. And if I'm walking a trade show floor and I can't delineate between the brands out there, then how can we expect our customers to really understand the products or solutions that are best for them? And to really kind of see exactly what I'm talking about in this space, I would also challenge you to do the same. Have a look at your top 3 competitor websites, say, and, look at what they're saying there. Remove all of the brand identity, get rid of the colors, the name, kind of even some of those personality aspects. How different really are these brands from your own brand? I think a lot of businesses would admit that they're talking the same language, they're saying the same things, and it's making it really difficult for customers to make those decisions at the end of the day. So unfortunately, what we're seeing, in some cases I say unfortunately, some brands really benefit from this, but what we're seeing is customers really lean on things like referrals, existing or past relationships, and ultimately price, which I know a lot of brands don't feel comfortable playing in. And I'm not saying it's easy to differentiate. It's absolutely one of the hardest things for brands to do, whether you're new to the market or you've been around for decades. Setting yourselves apart and saying something different is challenging. It is very difficult to do. However, a lot of brands aren't taking the risk and need to be in order to stand out and really drive growth through getting noticed in today's space. So what can brands do? It ultimately comes down to creating a strong differentiation strategy. We work with a lot of brands that come in and they really want to focus on execution, and they want to get out there and talk to the audience and talk to their customers and do the tactical work to get in front of them. However, without the right story to tell and without being able to really uniquely set themselves apart, there's a lot of kind of wasted time and resources in making that effort. So by focusing on differentiation first and laying that groundwork, it really makes a stronger strategy for brands moving forward. So what do we mean by differentiation? Differentiation is really about deliberately designing your product or service offering to be distinct from your competitors. And that's both by tangible and intangible ways. Overall, it's about making an intentional effort to define and differentiate those unique aspects of your brand, those unique qualities and benefits that only your product or service can own. And we call these your points of difference. And ultimately, they're the heart of your differentiation strategy. And when we talk about distilling your points of difference, we really want to make sure that brands are hyper-focused on a small amount of things that their brand is really great at delivering. And so when we talk about that, it really comes down to that rule of 3. So focusing on those 3 core things that are unique to your brand and your brand alone. And it's interesting, the rule of 3, because, we get brought up even from a young age with this number 3, right? 3 little pigs, Goldilocks and the 3 little bears, stop, drop, and roll. All of these ways that are ingrained, that number 3. And it's because it's as much as we can remember. It really relates to the fact that having too much to remember, having too much thrown at us, having too much thrown at your customers is not memorable. They're not going to walk away from communicating with your brand, remembering those core things that are unique to you. They're going to be overwhelmed with anything more than that. So sticking to that rule of 3 is really important when it comes to your points of difference. A strong differentiation strategy also helps to align your teams to ensure that you're telling the same story. So whether it's through your website, your trade show appearance, your marketing materials, your sales, or your customer service, you want to make sure that the points that you're focusing on, those features and benefits that we talk about, that those are consistent across every piece of brand communication. You want them to be repeated, you want them to be memorable, and you want them to be the same time and time again so that they become attributed to your brand specifically. So where do brands start? When it comes to a brand differentiation strategy, you really want to make sure that your 3 PODs have these 3 key characteristics. The first, of course, is that it's distinct, that it's differentiated. I know I've said this a lot, but let's remember this. It needs to be different than what competitors are doing. And unfortunately, this is really the aspect that gets missed the most. We see a lot of brands want to focus first inwards. This is what we are great at. This is the story we want to tell. This is what we want to hang our hat on. And this is the miss. This is the gap that we see, is that people aren't looking outward at the industry, at the environment, at the market, at competitors to see what they're doing and what they're saying. So in order to start on the right foot, the best place to start is really by looking outward. It's kind of like high school rules. How do you know what's cool, or how do you know how to stand out if you're not looking at what the crowd is doing? That's very much like this. You need to know what your competitors are putting out there in order to say something different. So starting there and really understanding the messaging that exists is the best first step. From there, it's about mapping the gaps. And what I mean by that is understanding what they're not communicating. So maybe they're all saying the same types of PODs. Maybe they're all, delivering the same messages and the same value. But what are they missing? Where are areas or gaps that maybe your brand can fill that others can't? Is it experience? Is it partnership, credibility, service? What are these areas that maybe are creating an opportunity, a missed opportunity in the space that you operate? So the second key characteristic of a strong point of difference is that it is desirable, because we don't want to be focusing on creating points of difference that maybe we think are fantastic and that of course we can deliver and that are completely different from what other competitors are doing, but that aren't actually desired by our customers. We want to make sure that what we're doing is answering a need and actually something that they want. And so in order to do this, first of all, it's about defining your customer. So having that clear definition of who they are, the space that they play in, the mindset that they have, and then really digging into their, like I said, mindset. It's about knowing their pain points, their motivations, their triggers, their behaviors. It's about really understanding what they're looking for to make sure that the product offering that you're designing meets those needs. And having that deep understanding of your customer and of their needs, pain points, etc., is really the foundation of that humanology perspective that we talk about, and ensuring that your strategy is rooted in human insight and really tapping into what we know about them and what they're looking for. Essentially, the more clearly you can define that audience and more thoroughly understand who they are and what they're looking for, the better you can set up your differentiation for them. Okay, so when we get to the last characteristic of a strong POD, it's really about making sure that it's deliverable. So this is when I allow you can look inward now. We're done focusing on competitors and looking at our customers. Now we look into ourselves and we look at what our brand can deliver on time and time again. Because as much as we want to be differentiated and we want to be desirable, if we can't deliver on the commitments that we make and those features and benefits that we talk about, then we're going to have unhappy customers. And at the end of the day, an unhappy customer is worse than having no customer at all. We want to make sure that we're able to satisfy their needs and be that go-to brand for them. And so as we talked about, part of standing out in the market and really focusing on those 3 PODs is getting very single-minded. We talk about how strategy is as much about the decisions you make and the things you're going to do as much as it is about what you're not going to do. And so getting really hyper-focused in that area is very important. Now, there are going to be points of parity, those table stakes things that brands need to communicate or that audiences need to know that you deliver. Maybe that is durability, maybe that is protection, for example. But then we need to get into those clear, distinctive qualities that you deliver and that you can own that no one else does. And so is that price? Is that, are you the fastest product on the market? Is your channel strategy unique? A lot of those things, those tangible reasons to believe, make for great distinctive points of difference. However, I would encourage you not to miss the value of those intangible points or kind of those emotional versus functional points. And by that, I mean, how do we make our customers feel? What is it that we can provide that isn't necessarily about time, money, things like that, but more about elements like confidence? Is there a confidence in your product or service or brand that you can provide that others can't? Peace of mind, inclusiveness, feeling innovative because of decisions that they're making with your brand. There's a lot of different emotional ways that you can connect with customers and provide those intangible benefits that can really set you apart. So bringing that back together, as I talked about, there's really those 3 key characteristics of strong PODs, the heart of your differentiation strategy that you should be focusing on, or that brands in the building material space should be focusing on. And that's really about making sure that you're distinct, desirable, and that you're able to deliver on those qualities and commitments that you make to your customers. Once that work has been done to really define your points of difference, it's then about weaving that into your value proposition. So defining that continual value that you promise to your customers time and time again. And then, of course, becoming the foundation for your positioning strategy. But that is a story for another day. So for now, I will leave you with the challenge to really look into your own brands and see how you're differentiating. If you're standing out from your competitors, or if you really need to take a hard look at how you're setting yourselves apart. Thanks for listening.